Oh, this is such an awkward angle. Okay, so I told you in my last video that I was gonna do, oh my God, you see how that, I don't know if that's gonna show up on the video. Like, it feels like my light is moving. It's very strange. An update on all the supplements I'm taking, right? Oh, I hurt my thumb, by the way. Yeah, I caught a wall ball really awkwardly, like, I don't know, like over a month ago. And then the other day I was pulling on my pants and I'm like, oh my God, did I just break my thumb? Like, it's so painful. But anyway, so just a like 2-second video, what I'm taking, not a doctor, not medical advice, not suggesting you take any of this stuff, but this is what the naturopath has recommended, just to help with thyroid support, hormone support and whatnot. And hopefully, I'm hoping that this combination is a little bit of a magic bullet, right? In terms of getting things back where they need to be. So vitamin D, one of these, yeah, every day. I live in a northern climate. We don't see the sun very often, so super important. They also think, I think there's some anecdotal evidence about vitamin D and COVID. Either if you get it, it's not as severe, or maybe you don't get it. Like, it's kind of a weird thing. Anyway, look it up, totally recommend. This is Dim Eval. This is an estrogen supplement. And so I am on this now, and then in a month, I have to stop taking it, or at the end of this month, I have to stop taking it, because in the month of April, I have to do like the hormone testing, and you can't be on supplements, right? So we're hoping that we get a better sense of like what my baseline like estrogen, testosterone, cortisol is from being off birth control. So this one. All right, this selenium. You can also get selenium. It's really good for thyroid support. You can also get it through Brazil nuts. So sometimes I eat like 3 of those a day. You can't eat too many. You can like OD on Brazil nuts, on selenium. So I have those in the past. I opted to do a supplement this time around just because it was a little bit more convenient, and the supplement is actually cheaper than the Brazil nuts, believe it or not. I know you're not shocked by that. Thyroid 65. Beep. This is, it's not a synthetic. It's just a natural like thyroid like support, not a replacement, because of the issues I have with my thyroid, which is more of like Hashimoto's. Like I don't have enough to where they would potentially be like, oh, you need to be on a synthetic replacement, which I'm not opposed to. Like, that is, my mom's been on one forever, whatever. She also has Hashimoto's. That was something that she has just recently learned. So she's had a thyroid issue, and I may have mentioned this before, so, oh my God, for like 40 years. And they never told her that she had Hashimoto's until she started having issues with her parathyroid, and went in for a scan, and then they did an ultrasound on her neck, right, to see her parathyroid glands, and they could barely see her thyroid anymore. It's almost gone completely, and that's because the antibodies, like her body is attacking her thyroid, and that's Hashimoto's. And so I have thyroid antibodies. Mine are still within what they would consider like an acceptable range, before we have to start like thinking about things a little bit differently. And so for now, like just doing like thyroid support, which is awesome. So this pushes the T3 up. And then a number of months ago, I had my reverse T3 tested, which is very interesting. It's not something that they really test for. There's some debate within the medical community of whether or not the RT3 is real. Like, they know it's a real thing, but what impact it has on the body, there's some debate. Like, some doctors are like, oh no, if you have a lot of RT3, and so RT3, your reverse T3, it doesn't stop your T3 from being produced, but it stops it from like working correctly, right? So you can have a totally normal T3 number, but if you have a high reverse T3 number, it interferes with the T3 from working correctly, from like adhering itself like to the molecules or whatever it does, right, in the receptors in your body, right? So my RT3 is high. So I have a lot of RT3, and then I have about an average amount of regular T3, of just the T3 free. And so my ratio is really poor. You want to have about 10 times as much T3 free, it's a mouthful, then you do RT3, and I have the opposite. So I have way more like RT3 than T3. So I always say that my body's just really inefficient, And like, when I learned more about that, I was like, oh my God, like that totally makes sense. Like, do I think that it's the cause of all my problems? No. But I do think that it was a very interesting thing to learn, right? And then I've learned some other things that, are kind of weird, and maybe we'll talk about them. But it has to do with the fact that my great-great-grandparents survived a potato famine in Ireland. And how, when you have people in your family who have survived a famine, like prior to being born, like it damages your genetics, and like, it's a weird thing, right? It's kind of like, it seems a little like woohoo for me, because I'm very like, science is science, right? Like, is this real? And then someone mentioned it to me, and I was like, is that why, like every time that I'm trying to like actively lose weight, like my entire life, right, guys, it's been my whole life. But is that why my body, my brain immediately goes crazy? And it's like, oh, no, we're starving. We're in a famine. Stop doing this. Like, is that it? Like, but it's very interesting stuff. So I could probably do an entire video on it for all 7 of you that are watching me right now. But it's interesting. And I highly recommend, if you have any ancestors that have survived famine, like go look that stuff up and like see what happens. Like like I said, it's very interesting. It's a little crazy. It's a little hard to accept that you're like, wait, no, that can't be real. But they've done studies on different groups of people, and like long-term, like generational studies of like, okay, like even like survivors of the Holocaust, right? And then like how their like ancestors have fared since then, right? Like how did the multiple generations that came after, like what are their bodies like? How do they respond to certain situations? Like there's something there, right? And then like I said, my grandfather's Irish, right, and English, but my great grandma was 100% Irish, and so it was like her family, right, that was in Ireland during the famine, and that's how they ended up here. And so, but very interesting, like it's a little nuts, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, so chromium, this one too, this is another thing that's really good for like metabolism, thyroid, whatever. Again, not making that recommendation, talk to your doctor, go to whoever. So I take that one too. And then also this B12 complex from Thorne. So I have a couple different supplements from Thorne. Thorne, I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, but they make really good, clean supplements. And their price point is actually pretty good. Comparatively speaking, they are very popular in the CrossFit world. So I was actually when I saw that my naturopath had supplements from them, I was like, oh, okay, like she actually knows what she's talking about, just because it was a familiar company, brand, whatever, and stuff. So that is what I am on now. And then on Monday, I started a very basic like food elimination diet, which has been very easy so far. I started with something very simple for me to eliminate, and that is potatoes. So I started to have an issue with potatoes. I want to say, when did I first notice it? I don't recall this ever being an issue like when I was a kid. Although I can tell you now, like, I don't really think we ate a lot of potatoes when I was a kid. Like, I mean, we had like pot roast and stuff, right? But I don't remember, like, potatoes wasn't something that was like an everyday food, for me or whatever growing up. I love potatoes, don't get me wrong. Love me some French fries, love mashed potatoes, love baked potatoes. Like, potatoes are fabulous, okay? But this would have been 2018, probably, maybe 2017 even. I started having random upset stomachs. Like, I was just like, why is my stomach upset? Like, asking myself that question. And I had been eating, and this was after I had done a thing with the CrossFit crew called the Whole Life Challenge. You guys probably have heard of it. Like, if it's different than Whole30, but very similar, right? Where there's different levels you can try. There's like lifestyle, and then there's like, like super hard, like basically the only thing you can eat is chicken. Like, I mean, there's different things. And that was like a 6-week thing. And so after that, because on that thing, you couldn't eat potatoes. Like, the level that I was following, it wasn't potatoes. Like, you could have, I think, sweet potatoes and rice maybe, but there was no like white potatoes. And so after that, when I started eating potatoes, right, I would get an upset stomach. And it took me like 2 weeks, I think, to figure out what was different about my diet in those 2 weeks that, was causing a problem. Because it felt very like digestive issue versus being like, oh, I have norovirus or something else, right? So I was like, I think it's the potatoes. So I stopped eating potatoes and then it went away. And so I've been kind of like, and you guys have seen me eat like on camera, like mashed, like, not mashed potatoes, but French fries. For some reason, French fries don't seem to be an issue. And I don't know if it's because they're fried, like something's weird there. But anyway, so at Christmas time, right before Christmas, and I went home this year for Christmas for like 3 weeks. It was fantastic to be at home with my mom. And it was very cold and very snowy the whole time I was up north. So we basically sat in the house for 3 weeks and did puzzles. Like it was great. Before I went home though, I had bought some single serve, I'm sure you guys have seen the like instant mashed potatoes, and I got them at Thanksgiving because like I just did like a small thing. I had knee surgery right at Thanksgiving. So I just cooked myself like a small turkey breast and like made some stuffing and I didn't want to make mashed potatoes in like massive quantity, so I just bought like a little instant cup of mashed potatoes. Ate it felt fine. Like while I was eating it wasn't like an instant thing. Next day I woke up and my entire body hurt. Like the bottoms of my feet hurt. I was like, what the hell? And I was like, it's got to be the potatoes. And I made that connection pretty quickly. And I was just like, that's so interesting because it's not the dairy, because I eat yogurt every day. I don't have that issue with yogurt, although yogurt and milk are different, like from a pasteurizing perspective, like it's different, right? But I haven't drank real milk, right? In probably, has it been 20 years? Maybe 15 years. Like I'm an almond milk kid, oat milk, whatever. I'm not opposed to dairy. That's not it. Like, it's not like, oh, whatever, but I eat butter, like eggs, all the dairy foods, right? I don't think it's the dairy. Just because, again, like I eat dairy and I don't have that reaction, although it could be the milk and the mashed potatoes. I mean, I suppose. But so my whole body hurt and I was like, it's the fucking potatoes, like, and then something else started happening. And this was the summer that my dad passed away. After my dad passed away, which is actually, oh my gosh, it's almost the 5th of March. So anyway, I started to have a reaction to Chinese food. Like all of a sudden the same thing. Like I would eat Chinese food and then the next day my entire body would hurt. And I was like, I've never experienced that before in my life. And everyone's like, oh, it's the sodium. And I was like, no. I eat takeout from the Jewish diner, right? From the kosher diner in my neighborhood. Like if you don't like, have you ever had corned beef, right? Like it is all salt, right? It's like, this is not a thing, right? Like I was like, it can't be the sodium because like I eat corned beef sandwiches all the time, like probably once a week, like, and it's not a problem, And so I don't know what it is, but like, so we're starting with potatoes. That's the point of this story. Because we think that's probably a thing, right? And I'm just going to see like just cutting out all kinds of potatoes, including sweet potatoes for the next like 12 weeks. We're just going to see like, does that do anything? Does it change anything? Right. And then the next step is going to be, I think like whey products, right? So like I said, I eat yogurt. That seems to be okay. But whey protein, there's something weird about that too. Like when I can't lose body fat, and I've been struggling like to get my body to like just chill and like go back to its natural set point. And that's like a whole other conversation. However, like, I think through the proper supplementation right now, and again, this is just what is recommended for me. I'm not making this recommendation to anyone else. And then this elimination thing, I think is really going to help kind of isolate some of my problems. I also do know that I'm a little bit more sensitive to wheat, right? Which is also a genetic thing. So I'm Italian. And like I said, I'm Italian and Irish, and Italy and Ireland produce the most celiacs out of any nationality. And I was like, and I had stopped eating wheat for a really long time, and I will pepper it in here and there. But there's definitely like, I already know that that's likely a problem. So that's an easy one for me to just walk away from. I don't have any problems with that at all. And I'm not a big sugar kid. So that will also be on the list of things to walk away from. And then just different things, like random things like beans, like, whatever, just to try to figure out like how to improve the way my body functions, right? Because that's been my challenge, really since going kind of down this intuitive eating path, is just like, why is this so hard? Like, why won't my body just like go to a natural healthy body weight? And because of the knee surgery, that's more important now than anything, right? You know, is like, I'm trying to avoid having to have my knee joint replaced before I'm 50. And I'm not looking for any kind of miracle. You know, but I just want to be something more reasonable, right? You know, and part of intuitive eating and like part of like giving up on the macro tracking, you know, obviously resulted in weight gain, right? And I'm the heaviest I've been in a very long time. And I'm uncomfortable with that. And I'm okay saying that, you know, because there's nothing like, I think people get dieting and disordered eating and like there's this whole like, oh, you don't have to be a certain size. And that's fine. Like, I don't give a shit what people think. Like, that's totally fine. But for me personally, like, I'm uncomfortable, like, at this body weight. You know, it also impacts my CrossFitting. It puts more pressure on my joints. Like, there's, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm strong as fuck though. Like, you know, I've PR'd so many lifts in the last year because I am carrying a little bit more body weight, you know, but it doesn't make me feel great. You know, when you have to run or you have to do box jumps or you have to do burpees, you know, at a heavier size than what you've ever, you know, have been in a very long time, like, you know, it's hard, right? You know, and it's frustrating. And so I'm hoping that just with eliminating some stuff out of my diet, making sure that that's like, we get to the root cause of some of the digestive issues I've had, proper supplementation, proper sleep, exercise, right? And now that it's starting to get warmer, I'm really looking forward to getting out walking more, you know, because it was very mild here all winter, and then all of a sudden winter showed up in Milwaukee. So haven't been able to get out as much as I want, but just to reduce the cortisol because training is stressful, right? And, you know, like it's good to take a break, right? Like, or to train and then walk on top of it just to like reduce that cortisol in your body. So I'm hoping that that combination is super successful and that I can get to something, you know, more reasonable in terms of my body weight and body fat. I'm more concerned about like body composition, actually. Like, I would like to be able to lose body fat, and that's a whole other conversation about my low testosterone, and hoping that now that I'm off birth control, which is a big piece of this, I'm hoping that maybe my body's like, okay, cool, we're good now. Like, let's just go back to our normal levels, will allow me to put on some lean mass, because that's been a struggle for a really long time. I have to work so hard to like put on lean mass, and I shouldn't have to work that hard. Like, I know that sounds very selfish and annoying, but I'm just like, why is this so challenging? Why can't, you know, why is everything I put in my body just, it's stored as fat versus like, how come we're not moving that around, right? But because my T is low, and that's because of birth control. And there's some really interesting studies out right now about birth control. Like, I'm not opposed to it. And if I end up back in the scenario I was in as a teenager, young adult, with long, heavy, painful cycles, periods, whatever, I'm going back on the pill. Like, I do not give a shit. Like, I will supplement the estrogen and the testosterone that way, just because like, I don't want to be miserable, and I'm not opposed to it. And I, you know, but I'm trying it. I'm humoring my naturopath right now with going off the pill for 3 months. I'm humoring her. So, but if I get good results from that, like, and if I'm not miserable, you know, if things are okay, you know, like, then I'll just stay off of it and, you know, and just supplement and hope that helps with some of my body composition. So yeah. So anyway, so that is the update. I hope you're all having a fabulous day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.